appreciate it. Before we get to the latest out of Minneapolis, the president's team today revealed a new housing plan that I'm on the fence over. There are aspects I like, there are aspects I don't. So in other words, there's some pros and cons, and I don't know which one weighs more than the other. I can't figure it out. So Kevin Hassett, he's going to be the next Fed chair, right?
It seems that way.
It's pretty obvious. He announced on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning this new plan that essentially says you might be able to use your 401k to fund a down payment on a home. Now, we don't have all of the details yet, but let's listen.
The president will put the final plan out in Davos next week. I'll be flying up there with him. Is that we're going to allow people to take money out of their 401ks and use that for down payment.
Well, that's interesting, to take money out of your 401k. Do you worry that taking money out of the 401k is going to hurt people on the other side for retirement?
Well, what you have to do is come up with a way. So a simple way, we're still talking about the mechanics of it, but suppose that you put 10% down on a home and then you take 10% of the equity of the home and put it in as an asset in your 401k. Then your 401k will grow over time as the value of your house grows. You'll be healthy, have more money for retirement, and you'll have solved the liquidity constraint problem and gotten yourself a house early in life.
Unless you lived in Detroit when the housing market crumbled and this happened, right? I mean, that's the issue that I have. And I don't quite understand the mechanics yet, because, again, partially because they didn't put out the mechanics yet. But even under what he just said, the value of your home changes over time, or it can change dramatically over time in either direction. What happens even when you sell your home? Do you cover some of that by being forced to put it back into 401k? There are aspects of this I don't understand and don't necessarily like, or at least see as potentially risky. There are other parts that I don't have a problem with. I mean, the idea of expanding access to home ownership, right, that's a good thing. That's important. I don't like the idea that too many people said to themselves, the idea that American dream of owning a home, having that kind of security, putting your roots down in a neighborhood is just unattainable. Like, that's depressing to me. And as someone who is still kind of looking for, I can't quite tell if I'm going to rent for another year or not. It's depressing looking at some of the prices here. And I'm coming from a place where, can I afford some of the? Yeah, I can afford it. But it's overpriced, and I just refuse to pay for it. I just cannot do it. There are lots of things that I can afford, but I refuse to pay for because it's overpriced and it doesn't seem like a smart investment. And I'm not going to make that kind of investment. And that's depressing. And so anything that can be done to reasonably expand access to home ownership, I think, is something we should celebrate. It also, part of me, because I'm looking at this through a conservative lens, this is respectful of individual financial decision-making, right? It's my money. It's my retirement. You're now letting me, with my own money, make a choice that I want to make. Part of me says, why am I even asking you for permission? But there are obviously tax trade-offs when you're investing in this, so it's not like we're getting nothing. But yeah, part of me looks at this and say, look, I like personal control over my own money and my own retirement, and I want this kind of protection or freedom, I should say, over Social Security. I want to be able to invest that as I see fit, instead of putting it into the federal system. This is a version of that. So I like that. And, the other reality is, whether directly or indirectly, it doesn't matter, but this stimulates economic growth, right? Home ownership going up has positive effects on local economies, from the construction, like the development of these homes, the services, getting a plumber, getting someone to mow your lawn. Just the consumer spending that's attached to it is obviously a positive. So those are at least three things that off the top of my head I can think of that I like. But Maria Bartiromo kind of pointed, my biggest concern here is there's risk to long-term retirement security. My assumption is, and it's not necessarily a fair assumption for everyone, but if you're struggling right now to put down the 10 to 20% or 15%, down payment, and you're at the point where you have to look into your retirement, my guess is you're probably a little bit older, right? Because you have to have a retirement fund to pull $100,000 from, or again, whatever it is. And my guess is if you don't have that kind of savings right now, you're probably not doing so well from a financial perspective outside of that retirement fund. So aren't you just depleting your 401k? And I get Kevin Hassett's point about, well, no, it's going to grow. I don't understand it. You also could have the potential to worsen housing market distortions. I mean, you're not addressing the supply-demand issue here, which is a big reason why the costs of a home are as high as they are, right? The cost is high because we don't have a good enough supply and there's a big enough demand in most of this country. And so perhaps we would be able to better afford these homes and not have to dip into our 401ks if they weren't so expensive. What's a way to get the cost of housing down? Create more housing. That's just a basic. It's not the only thing, but that's a basic piece of this. And then I will say, not that I'm going to lean into an equity argument, you can make an argument that this kind of proposal creates an unequal benefit that favors older Americans versus the younger ones who are the loudest complainers in all of this, rightly so to a degree. And if you're older, and you already don't own a home, depending on what we mean by older, 50, 60, is this, again, the right financial move? I don't know. What do you think? You're a nerd.
I'm not much of a housing nerd, though, honestly. Although it is
But you're
kind
an
of
economic nerd.
it kind of reminds me a little bit of the 20-year mortgage thing. Just sort of
50-year.
Or yeah, geez, sorry.
Well, 20-year. You can do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, just like kind of desperately trying to get people into homes that probably maybe aren't in a position to be buying them.
Which creates another bubble. It creates all sorts of problems. I mean, we had a housing problem in large part initially, or, not too long ago. How long ago was that?
2008?
Almost 20 years?
Yeah.
Like, people should not have purchased homes.
Subprime loans.
It just wasn't a wise move. And so, I don't know, maybe the way to look at stories like this or ideas like this, including the 50-year mortgage, right? I'm 99% against that, but I can see how in very, 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 very specific circumstances you can make it work. It's very, very, very limited. It's not going to make a huge deal to the vast majority of Americans unless you are looking to put yourself in a bigger financial hole just over the course of a longer amount of time. And so perhaps the best way to look at this idea on the 401k is there's some people who can make this work and it would make sense for them. But generally, I would argue the people who this would make the most sense for are people who can already afford a down payment without dipping into their 401k. Or I don't know, I suppose there are certain circumstances where you can be young and have a large 401k. It's unlikely, but I mean, based on how, like, what's your 401k? Can't be that much.
It's not very big.
Right? It's maybe 10 to 30,000, maybe. Probably not even that high yet because you have not been here. This is your first 401k,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so it's probably like $12,000 now, if that. Because mine,
You're shockingly close, yes.
Right, yeah, no, I only know that basically because I know where mine is, which is, I think, I want to say 500 to 600, something like that at this point. And I put a lot of money into the 401k, but I've been here for a long time and there's company matching, something like that. But do I want to dip into that? Because I don't think that's a lot, given how expensive everything is. And the good news is, as someone who's been 29 for 14 years, I'm not retiring anytime soon. So it's just going to grow and grow and grow. I've got a Roth IRA that I keep forgetting that I have. And every once in a while when I remember, I'm like, oh, I should probably put more money into that. I can take from that because I forget it's even there. And it makes things a little bit easier. But still, I'm not going to pay that much money for a home. I flatly refuse. I was looking, we got on the show later today, Matt Goyer. I love Matt Goyer's YouTube channel. I'm like obsessed with it. And it's really one of those simple things because he's just talking into a camera about, the real estate market in this region. And he specializes in condos. And I like condos, but I don't like the price. And we've gone over this before, right? They can be very small, very overpriced. And now, the last couple months, the condo market has almost imploded. Like, we're at the point, at least in Seattle, not Bellevue, Bellevue condos are stupidly expensive. But that makes sense to me because these are people who can escape Seattle. They're going to have light rail soon. For those of them who live in Seattle, I understand why there is a huge surge in pricing there. But Seattle condo prices are starting to come down. And still it's too expensive. Why? HOAs. The HOAs aren't coming down. And I keep seeing these places. I'm like, okay, I'm in an apartment now. I can find a condo that's about the same size, same amenities-ish than what I currently have, but it would still be considerably more expensive. So why would I do that? Why would I do that? And what sucks now is I've got 2 weeks before I have to say yes to a lease extension on my place, which I like, but I found another apartment that I love, but I won't spend $4,500 a month on an apartment. I can't justify it. I just can't justify right? That's
even if you could afford it, just in principle.
Well, no. Here's the thing: can I afford it? Yes,
yeah.
I can afford it, but I can't get my head around
it's the principle of it.
Yeah, I can't spend $4,500 on a 1,200-foot apartment. It's 2 bedrooms, and they're anywhere between $4,100 and $4,700. And you know what's killing me? The $400 parking. Like I said to them, look, I'll take this. You got to get rid of that parking. I'm not spending I refuse to spend $400 on parking. That's absolute absurd. Absolutely absurd. Like, no, we can't do it. I was like, well, then I'm not going to live here. Okay. Some other idiot will take on the apartment. And it's sad because I have, you know what I want to do in that second bedroom? Because it's not like I live with anyone. It's just me and my dog. I got a dog in
Really?
2023. Yeah. His name is D'Artagnan. It's going to be a mixed-use room. One, it's going to be D'Artagnan's toy room, but also my wellness center. Because I have a bunch of red light panels. They're kind of big. Put them in there. I have my little sauna blanket. I put it in there. I just got a Pulsetto, which is a vagal nerve stimulator. I put it in there. I put everything in there. Get an elliptical bike and the TV on.
Massage chair?
No, I don't like massage chairs. I can never find one that gets.
Yeah, I just find them to be
massage.
Painful. Honestly, they're kind of I don't know.
I would
rough.
take the pain part because at least it means it's giving you a deep massage. And I have a high threshold for pain. I'm told by doctors who harm me. And
well, yeah, you work with me, so.
Well, that's for stupid, not for pain. But I have my massage lady who does I think she's trying to kill me. I think she's testing herself to see how far she can go before someone says, you're hurting me. But I almost get to that point.
So if you were ever a prisoner of war, you'd be great at dealing with interrogation.
Pull out these fingernails. Pull them out. I think I can handle it. Have at it. 1-800-465-8770 for your texts. The latest from Minneapolis as tensions continue to grow. There's a protest that is forming yet again. We'll bring you the latest.